In the Alfred L. Shoemaker, Pennsylvania, German folk cultural files at Ursinus College in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, inside a packet scanned from a folder that had slept since 1949, I found a typed report by H. Wayne Gruber. I was not looking for a miracle. I was looking for housekeeping history. What I found instead sat there in black ribbon ink, plain as a hammer. In one sentence, the detergent industry has spent 77 years hoping you never read. That hard soap was the only soap had on the farm. That document was published 77 years ago. You've never heard of it. That is not an accident. I kept reading. Gruber was describing farm soap in North Heidelberg Township, Berks County, made from saved fat, caustic soda, salt, water, and patience. Not boutique soap, not artisanal branding, not a rustic novelty sold in a gift shop beside jam. Daily soap, laundry soap, work soap, the only soap on the farm. I read the page twice, then again. The language was clumsy in places because memory writes the way life feels, but the meaning was clean. Families did not once walk into a fluorescent aisle to buy blue liquid in a plastic jug. Families did not once pay to ship water home by truck. Families did not once mistake fragrance for cleaning. They made a high alkaline wash material from ingredients already on hand, then stretched it across months of dirty shirts, bedding, overalls, diapers, aprons, and winter wool. It worked because the chemistry was honest. That was the first thing. The second thing hit harder. The document did not describe desperation. It described normal life, routine life, repeatable life. Enough for years, enough for generations. Enough that the skill did not need a trademark, a mascot, or a monthly refill plan. That knowledge never disappeared. It was filed away. It was waiting. And once you see that, the whole detergent aisle starts looking strange. 40 feet of color, 40 feet of fragrances named after mountains, rain, silk, spring, and innocence. Jug after jug telling you freshness comes from a laboratory perfume cloud instead of from actually removing soil. Pods sold like candy, bottles sold like status, powders rebranded as old-fashioned, concentrates diluted, then marked up, then diluted again by habit. You are not buying cleaning alone. You are buying packaging, shipping weight, shelf rent, advertising, and the psychological comfort of doing what everybody else does. That is why the old sentence matters. The only soap had on the farm is not nostalgia. It is a direct challenge to the assumption that cleaning requires permanent retail dependence. If one farm could clean a household through Pennsylvania winters and muddy summers with basic alkali soap, then the burden of proof shifts. The burden falls on the modern bottle. What exactly is in that bottle that your grandmother did not already understand? The honest answer is less dramatic than the label, so I started pulling on the thread. I went from Berks County to Lancaster County, from a 1949 folk archive to extension bulletins, detergent histories, Federal Trade Commission opinions, and agricultural records. The same pattern kept appearing. Rural families used soap, alkali, and water-softening minerals because those materials solved the exact problem laundry still has today: body oil, clay, protein stains, smoke, sweat, and mineral-heavy wash water. Then modern detergent marketing arrived and turned a once seasonal household skill into a permanent retail dependency. Nobody told you, not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you scented convenience in a 32-load bottle. The story you inherited says old laundry was crude and modern detergent saved you. The documents say something else. The documents say families knew exactly what mattered, and the chemistry has not changed just because the packaging did. You can still build a year's worth of laundry concentrate for less than the price of one warehouse club run. You can still clean clothes with dry builders, simple soap, oxygen, and cold water discipline. You can still stop buying liquid that is mostly carrier, perfume, dye, and marketing. And yes, this works. Even if your house was built 50 years ago, you live in a city, you've never done this before, and you don't have land. Stay with me. Because what I found in that 1949 Pennsylvania archive uses the same chemistry Egyptians used to clean linen with natron thousands of years ago. You have been trained to think cleaning comes from complexity. It does not. Cleaning comes from matching the chemistry to the soil. Grease needs surfactant and alkalinity. Mineral-heavy water needs softening. Odor needs actual residue removal. Fabrics need enough rinse water to carry the loosened soil away. That is it. The old recipes look plain because they are solving the real problem, not the marketing problem. The core mechanism is brutally simple. Dirt on cloth is not one thing. Body oil is hydrophobic. Clay is particulate. Protein stains bind differently than grease. Hard water adds calcium and magnesium ions that grab plain soap and turn part of it into sticky residue. New Mexico State University's laundry guidance says soap in hard water forms soapy scum that can gray fabrics. That is the problem most people never hear correctly. The problem is not simple soap. The problem is simple soap without builders. That is why the old formulas matter. Sodium carbonate, sold as washing soda, raises the wash water into an alkaline range that helps release fatty soils. Borax, sodium tetraborate, buffers the solution and helps tie up hardness minerals. A graded true soap supplies the surfactant that lifts soil away from fibers. If you add sodium percarbonate separately for stained loads, you also get oxygen bleaching in water. Utah State University Extension published homemade laundry detergent formulas using bar soap, borax, and washing soda because those components perform different jobs, not the same job 3 times. Think of it like your car radiator. Water alone moves heat, but the system fails without the right additives controlling corrosion, boiling point, and scale. Laundry chemistry works the same way. Soap is the mover. The builders keep the system from choking on minerals. Use the right balance, and 1 ounce of dry concentrate can deliver nearly 1 ounce of active cleaning solids. Many liquid detergents deliver a fraction of that because so much of the bottle is water. Call that active solids efficiency, the field's equivalent of a coefficient of performance. Roughly 1 unit of cleaning solids for every 1 unit you scoop versus roughly 0.18 to 0.24 in many liquids. There's another advantage nobody explains cleanly. Dry concentrate makes dosage visible. You can see the scoop. You can feel excess in your hand. That matters because over-detergenting is one of the quiet causes of dull fabrics, trapped odor, and machine residue. Too much liquid leaves material behind, especially in low-water, high-efficiency cycles. A simple powder punishes sloppiness fast. You either measured right or you did not. Old systems teach discipline because old systems cannot hide waste behind fragrance. The Department of Energy also reminds you where another hidden cost sits. Heating water for laundry takes energy. If your concentrate cleans in cold water, the savings compound twice. You buy less product and you heat less water. That gap represents a massive market in bottles, refills, fragrances, pods, advertising, and serviceable habit every year. And that is why you have never heard of this. And there is one more thing the old formulas do that modern labels distract you from. They separate cleaning from theater. Bright blue dye does not clean. An ocean name does not clean. Odor defense, printed in silver letters, does not clean. Surfactant, alkalinity, softening, oxygen, agitation, and rinse water clean. Once you see the categories clearly, the aisle stops looking advanced and starts looking ornamental. That is why simple formulas feel almost offensive to modern branding. Simplicity exposes markup. You can test this with your own senses. Wash 1 towel with a heavily fragranced liquid, then wash the next with a measured dry builder soap mix and no softener. Leave both towels folded for 48 hours. The perfumed towel often blooms into a strange sweet sour smell because residue stayed behind. The cleaner towel smells like almost nothing because almost nothing stayed behind. That is what you actually want. Not a louder smell, a lower residue burden. The old wash day women did not need a gas chromatograph to learn that lesson. Repetition taught it. Observation confirmed it. I first felt the difference in Strasburg, Pennsylvania, before sunrise. Standing near a wash line behind a farmhouse where the yard still held last night's cool. I heard wagon wheels farther down the road. I heard clothespins click. I did not hear a dryer. I did not hear a scent booster commercial leaking from a screen. The air smelled like damp cotton, iron-rich water, and soap with no perfume trying to impersonate cleanliness. I asked Eli, a plain-spoken Amish father, why the wash smelled clean without the store smell people have been trained to expect. Eli laughed and told me, "If the shirt is clean, why would you need perfume to prove it?" That line stayed with me. So did the quiet. The method in that community was not fashionable. It was inherited. 4 generations, Eli said. Maybe more if you count the people who came from the Palatinate and Alsace carrying the habit before the railroad reached half the county. Later that morning, Lydia showed me a shelf where cut bars cured on plain paper, dry as chalk and almost white. No branding, no wrappers, just rectangles. Lydia told me wash day changed with the season. Rainwater from the cistern needed less builder. Winter loads needed more time near the stove. Summer loads dried hard and fast on the line if the breeze held from the east. Nothing in that room felt improvised. Every motion felt rehearsed by repetition. The system was quiet because the system was settled. You can trace that continuity in records as well as memory. A 1935 to 1936 federal study of consumer purchases, later analyzed in Lancaster County Farm Household Research, captured how Plain families kept household production alive when other Americans were buying more industrial goods. The 1949 Berks County soap document simply says the quiet part out loud. The knowledge was still there. It never left. Long before a detergent aisle existed, Egyptians were cleaning linen with natron harvested from dry lake beds around Wadi el Natron. That mineral blend carried strong alkalinity, and linen loved it. Romans arrived at a similar answer from another direction. In Fulanica workshops at Pompeii, cloth was worked with alkaline materials and rinsed repeatedly because grease and soil release under alkali and agitation. Medieval German households later boiled animal fats with potash from wood ash, then cut hard blocks for wash day. Separate places, same physics. Han Dynasty Chinese households used plant ash leis for cleaning. Native families in the Southwest used yucca and other saponin-rich plants where a detergent aisle was unimaginable. The Amish didn't read this in a textbook. They figured it out the way all real knowledge gets discovered, by paying attention to what the body and water were already doing. Every civilization that mastered cleaning under material limits arrived at the same answer independently. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from the Palatinate to Pennsylvania 300 years ago and kept building it because it worked and because they never needed anyone's permission to do what made sense. The modern turn came fast. In 1933, Procter & Gamble introduced Dreft, the first household synthetic detergent in the United States, built around alkyl sulfate chemistry that worked better in hard water. That decision protected an entirely new recurring market. A household that could once clean with saved fat, alkali, and a few cents of minerals now became a branded customer. By 1957, according to the Federal Trade Commission record in the Procter & Gamble case, Procter had $414 million in packaged detergent sales alone. Homemade wash threatened dependence, and dependence threatened that revenue. Here is how the suppression actually worked. It did not need men in back rooms hiding soap recipes in vaults. It needed saturation. In the Federal Trade Commission opinion issued on November 26, 1963, Commissioner Philip Ellman described an industry built on shelf dominance and enormous advertising budgets, and the decision preserved a devastating phrase from the record: heavy advertising in lieu of technological innovation. That is the mechanism. Outspend the memory, repeat the message, make convenience look like progress, and inherited skill look like poverty. The Allies were real. NBC daytime radio gave Procter & Gamble a daily emotional slot, tying cleaning products to habit and comfort. Government was not neutral either. USDA and extension literature increasingly repeated the hard water weakness of plain soap without giving equal weight to builder-based home formulas that solved the same mineral problem. Industry competitors like Lever Brothers benefited too. Ad Age Records Lever Brothers as one of America's biggest radio advertisers in 1943. The money and the message moved together. Once stores owned your habit, memory looked inefficient and self-reliance looked eccentric, even when the old recipe kept cleaning better, cheaper, quieter, and with far less waste. And look closely at the numbers in the FTC record. Clorox spent $1,750,000 on newspaper advertising in 1957, $560,000 on magazines, $258,000 on radio and billboard advertising, and $1,150,000 on television. That was for bleach alone. The document says advertising equaled almost 10% of total sales. Then look at Procter's side of the same page. More than half of domestic sales sat in household cleansing agents. Packaged detergent sales reached $414 million in 1957. When that much money depends on routine purchase, the most dangerous competitor is not always a rival brand. Sometimes the dangerous competitor is memory, so the result was predictable. An entire field of knowledge disappeared from home economics, from ordinary memory, and from the practical inheritance between generations. Not because it failed, because bottled dependency scaled better. You can watch the same pattern continue now. In 2022, the American Cleaning Institute spent $344,000 on federal lobbying, according to Open Secrets. That money does not move for romance. That money protects regulatory language, packaging norms, chemical approvals, and retail dominance. The point is not simply to sell detergent. The point is to keep laundry imagined as a purchase subscription instead of a solvable household process. The laundry care market tied to that habit is worth tens of billions of dollars in American revenue each year. Every dry alternative mixed at home is one more bottle that never gets sold, refilled, replaced, or thrown away. And yes, this works in apartments too. A shelf, a bucket, and a tablespoon are enough. You do not need a barn. You do not need a wringer washer. You do not need an heirloom recipe card. You need clean ingredients, measured dosing, and the willingness to stop confusing brand familiarity with chemistry. That is the whole threshold. Cross it once, and the habit changes fast forever. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking, this only applies to people starting fresh with land, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need to buy equipment. You need one thing they already have or can easily get: a yard, a drill, a bottle, a weekend. Here is the practical build. Start with a clean 5-gallon bucket and a tight lid. Grate 3 5-ounce bars of plain Castile soap or Fels naphtha on the fine side of a box grater. You want flakes no thicker than 1/8 inch so the powder distributes evenly. Add 8 cups of washing soda, 8 cups of borax, and 4 cups of baking soda. If you keep an oxygen booster, store 2 cups of sodium percarbonate in a separate jar and use 1 tablespoon only on wipes, diapers, or sour towels. Mix the dry base for 3 full minutes with a gloved hand or a paint mixer on a drill at low speed. If you want a finer texture, pulse 2 cups at a time in a food processor for 6 to 8 seconds, then return everything to the bucket and stir again. Do not overblend. Heat can cake soap dust. Label the lid with the date. Keep the bucket 6 inches off concrete if your basement runs damp. If your laundry room sits above 60% humidity, toss in a folded square of muslin with 2 tablespoons of plain rice as a moisture trap. Old homes taught small corrections because small corrections prevent big annoyance. That batch fills roughly 22 cups of concentrate. A normal 8-pound load needs 1 tablespoon. A heavily soiled 12-pound load needs 2 tablespoons. If your water is very hard, over 120 parts per million, add another 1 teaspoon of washing soda directly to the drum. If you wash greasy mechanic rags, dissolve 2 tablespoons in 16 ounces of hot water before the cycle starts. The total ingredient cost usually lands between $28 and $46, depending on local prices. The bucket costs $7 to $14. A stainless scoop costs $4 to $9. One Saturday morning, 40 minutes the first time, and you are done. Use cold water for almost everything. Keep the wash between 54 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit if your machine allows tap cold. Pre-treat grease with a few drops of Castile soap. Pre-treat blood with cold water only. Pre-treat rust with lemon juice, not chlorine. Pre-treat mildew with 3% hydrogen peroxide on white cotton only, then rinse. Muslin cotton bags help if you want pre-measured portions, but loose powder works better in humid rooms. HDPE or polypropylene storage is best because paper boxes wick moisture. Schedule 40 PVC is irrelevant here, and that matters because people overcomplicate simple work. One warning: true washing soda is not optional. Baking soda alone causes weak alkalinity and disappointing soil release. Bar soap with heavy lotion additives is not optional either. Fancy moisturizing bars leave greasy residue that clings to fleece and towels. On a 95-degree day, with sweat salt deep in collars and pillowcases, this batch still pulls odor out because the builders attack the residue instead of covering it. If the clothes feel stiff, reduce the dose by 1 teaspoon. If the machine is high efficiency, dissolve the powder in 8 ounces of warm water first. For line drying, snap each shirt twice before hanging. That breaks the fiber stiffness perfumes are usually masking. Give towels 2 hours outside if the air is under 70% humidity. Give sheets 3 hours if the sun is direct. If rain threatens, finish indoors near a fan instead of a dryer sheet. Clean fabric is supposed to smell like fabric? Nobody told you. Not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you lavender rain in a plastic cap. This requires attention once a year for mixing and once a season for checking clumps. Your conventional liquid costs $14 to $28 per bottle, $18 to $41 per month in many homes, and keeps arriving in plastic for as long as you keep buying it. This costs $35 to $60 total. It lasts 1 year. Your choice. Everything I've covered across this channel, root cellar cooling, line dried bedding, lye soap basics, I've put it all in one place. Step by step, season by season, room by room, in the order the families actually use it. I haven't named it yet. The link is in the description. But stay here, because what Lydia in Lancaster showed me next is the part nobody is talking about yet. If you're the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. Not for me, for what comes next. Because this is not a channel. This is a quiet movement of people who have decided they're done being sold what they already own. I want to hear from you. Drop your state, your monthly laundry cost, or the old wash day trick your grandmother swore by in the comments. I read every single one. Your answers decide what we cover next. Next week, I'm going to show you what a 1946 Penn State document reveals about keeping food cold with nothing but airflow, brick, and wet cloth. The technique uses nothing but shade, water, and stacked mass. And the report from 1946 that proves university experts knew it long before modern kitchens trained you to forget it. You're not going to want to miss that one. Because once you see this pattern, you start seeing it everywhere. Not because the old way was romantic, because the old way often separated need from retail. You deserve that separation back. You deserve to know which household costs are physics and which costs are theater. And once you know the difference, you stop asking permission. You start paying attention. That is where every real change begins.